It was a Thursday morning. Mabel had just wrapped a Zoom call with a client. She clicked Leave Meeting, closed her laptop, and stared at the blank screen for a moment too long. Her apartment was quiet, but then she felt that familiar ache in her shoulders, like she had been clenching without realizing again. She got up to make tea. Lavender chamomile, the one her therapist recommended. She stood in the kitchen, watching the kettle boil, when her phone buzzed. "Don't forget dinner at Mom's tonight. 6 p.m. A text from her sister. And just like that, the ache turned to a knot. Dinner at her mom's house should be a simple thing. But for Mabel, it always meant one thing: tightrope walking. Because being around her family was like holding her breath, like playing a role she never auditioned for, but couldn't seem to quit. Mabel is 30. She reads the books. She listens to the podcasts. She's done years of therapy. Outwardly, she's the one who's doing the work. But inside, she still flinches when her mother raises her voice. She still second-guesses her tone in texts. She still shrinks when her grandmother throws backhanded compliments like confetti. She carries tension the women in her family never spoke about. Not because it wasn't there, but because they were taught not to name it. Mabel grew up in a house where silence was peace, and discomfort was swept under the rug. Where "I'm fine" was the family anthem. Where her mother's pain was something Mabel absorbed, not something they ever talked about. She inherited a wound, one passed down like an heirloom. We don't talk about pain. We move on. We don't make things awkward. And so, she learned. She learned to be polite instead of honest, helpful instead of hurt, mature instead of messy. She learned that feelings made people uncomfortable, so she buried them. She lived her life like that, silently wrapped around the trauma that had been passed from generation to generation. Until one day, she found out she was pregnant. And suddenly, the silence didn't feel safe anymore. It felt like a cage. She didn't know if she wanted a child. How would they even raise a child? She didn't know how. All she had was traumatic memories from her own childhood. Her family's silence, the way her mother always dismissed her feelings as too much, the way her grandmother wore emotional detachment like a badge of honor. A few years after she started therapy, at dinner one night, she opened up to her family just a little. "I've been working through some old stuff in therapy," she said gently, "about growing up and not really feeling seen." The room went still. Her mother blinked, then laughed. "Well, you've always been the emotional one, sensitive like your dad." Her grandmother chimed in with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You come from strong women, Mabel. We don't sit around feeling things. We get on with it." And her aunt, always the peacemaker, tried to smooth it over. "Come on, don't make it a thing. We move on." That phrase, "don't make it a thing," it sliced through her like a whisper she'd heard 1,000 times. And suddenly, she wasn't at a dinner table. She was 8, and she'd just been told to stop crying again, to stop asking questions again, to be strong again. And for a moment, Mabel forgot how to breathe. That night, after dinner, she went home and cried. Not because they'd hurt her, no. She was used to that. She cried because for the first time, she saw it. She saw the pattern, the way her mother had likely swallowed her own feelings, the way her grandmother had probably been taught to stay quiet, generation after generation handing down silence like a family recipe. And then, a week later, her 5-year-old niece was at her apartment. She was having dinner, and just like any other child her age, she reached for her juice, and because she was not paying attention, she spilled her juice. He started crying loudly, messily, and unfiltered, just like any child her age. Mabel knelt down beside her, ready to comfort her. But her sister snapped from the hallway. "Ugh, stop crying over nothing like a baby. You're fine. You're just being dramatic. Sit down now." Mabel froze. Her hand hovered in the air. At that moment, she saw it so clearly, the moment it begins. The moment a child learns, my feelings are too much. She saw herself. How many times had she been told that same thing? How many times had she muted herself for the sake of peace? She knew in her bones if she didn't do something now, the silence would pass on again. To the next generation. Right there, with her hands still midair, she made a decision. This ends with me. Not just the muting, not just the dismissals, but the legacy of swallowing emotion to keep the peace. No more. She would be the one who said, "You're allowed to feel. You're not too much. Your voice matters." Even if it made things uncomfortable. Even if it meant setting boundaries. Even if it meant confronting generations of women who were taught to survive by staying silent. But she found out that endings, real ones, don't happen in a single moment. They unfold in tension, in backlash, in growing pains. Because once Mabel stopped playing her role, the script didn't just change for her, it changed for everyone around her. And not surprisingly, the pushback was immediate. Her mother called her dramatic. Her sister said, "Why are you acting like we had such a bad childhood?" Her grandmother just shook her head. "You've changed, Mabel." And not like a compliment. It stung, because what they didn't realize was, Mabel wasn't trying to be rebellious. She was trying to heal, to be free. But healing is rarely tidy. She felt alone in it. She turned to social media hoping for solidarity, and was met with noise. The headlines jumped at her. "You can heal your trauma in 30 days. Try this 3-step manifesting method. Take this $80 supplement to regulate your nervous system." It all felt so surface, so empty, because Mabel didn't need a hack. She needed truth, and the truth was that she was scared. Scared that if she kept setting boundaries, she'd be abandoned. Scared that if she stopped people-pleasing, no one would stay. Scared that if she dared to say, "I'm angry," she'd become the villain, the ungrateful daughter, the difficult woman, the one who forgot where she came from. I've great stow. Have you ever felt that? Like healing might cost you everything? Like finally using your voice might mean losing the people who taught you to silence it? Mabel felt all of that. And still, she kept going. She started therapy. Not the trendy kind. No. She started the deep, slow, unpack your whole childhood kind. She wrote letters to her younger self. Letters full of truth and grief and forgiveness. She didn't send them, but she read them over and over. She began noticing the ways she'd betray herself in small moments, saying yes when she meant no, laughing to keep the peace, avoiding eye contact when she felt misunderstood. And she stopped. One by one, she stopped. She started saying, "Actually, I'm not okay with that. That hurt me. No, I won't be coming to dinner this Sunday." They were tiny revolutions, but they were revolutions all the same. She cried. A lot. But this time, no one told her to stop. One day, months into this process, she sat across from her mom at the kitchen table. There was tea between them, and a long silence. And Mabel said, with tears in her throat, "I don't want to fight with you, but I can't live in silence anymore." She didn't blame. She didn't accuse. She just spoke. And for the first time, her mother didn't flinch. She didn't agree. She didn't apologize. But she listened. And that was enough to begin. Because healing doesn't always look like reconciliation. Sometimes it just looks like being heard. Like being able to walk away from a conversation without self-loathing. Like not shrinking when someone's disappointed in you. Mabel didn't fix her family. There was no big movie moment. No tearful group hug. No generational apology. But that wasn't the point. The point was, she stopped betraying herself. She became emotionally sovereign. Which meant when the old wounds showed up, she didn't collapse into them. When her mother made a passive comment, when her sister rolled her eyes, when the room got heavy with silence again, Mabel didn't shrink. She breathed. She grounded herself. And then she spoke. Not louder. Not harsher. Just clearer. That doesn't sit right with me. I won't be taking that on. Let's not pretend that didn't hurt. And the world didn't end. Sure, it was awkward at first. But with every truth she told, she carved a little more space for herself and for the generation after her. One Sunday, her niece, the same one who'd been shushed for crying, was drawing at the table. He spilled paint, and it went everywhere. And before her mom could react, Mabel knelt down beside her. "It's okay," she said softly. "You're not bad. It was just an accident." Her niece looked up at her, confused at first. Then relief filled her face. She felt safe. And that moment was everything. Because it wasn't just about stopping pain. It was about creating safety, new safety, where there had only been silence before. That's what it means to be a cycle breaker. Not perfect, not unshakable, but willing. Willing to feel, willing to speak, willing to choose something better even when it's hard. And yes, sometimes she still doubts herself. Sometimes she catches that old voice whispering, "You're too much. Don't rock the boat. Keep the peace." But now, she answers it. Peace that costs my voice isn't peace. If you're watching this and something in your chest is tightening, if you feel like Mabel's story sounds a little too much like yours, then maybe it's your turn to be the one who says, "This ends with me. I choose a new legacy. I was not too much. I was never too much. And you never were." Congratulations on forging a new path. Tell me where you are watching from and leave your comments below. Healing starts from speaking out.